when it's your very first dog, it's a little bit like you have to get your sea legs, but within a couple of days, you just can't even believe that you did it any other way. So it's pretty incredible.
When I crossed the street, I was completely lost. I had no idea where I was, and all I could hear was the wind off the East River. And I thought, well, I guess I'm going to die right here,
How scared it must have been for you to feel that, not being able to find your way. I'm really interested in the people that work with animals and either for their welfare or conservationists or people that want to make a difference in the lives of animals. And I'm also extremely interested in how animals make a difference in our lives. You actually get both on a daily basis. Hey, I'm Dr. Doug. I'm a chiropractor for both animals and humans. My life's passion is volunteering at farms and helping rescue animals in need. Join me as we connect with people who have dedicated their lives to helping animals. Together we'll discover how helping animals live better lives will teach us to be better humans. Welcome to the Animal Cracker Podcast. Today we're honored to be joined by Rebekah Cross from Guiding Eyes for the Blind, celebrating 60 years of transformative work. Guiding Eyes has been a beacon of hope for over 10,000 guide dog teams. Rebekah is Director of Donor Relations, and she embodies the passion and dedication driving the Guiding Eyes mission. Join us as we explore its profound impact and vision for an inclusive future. Welcome, Rebekah, and thank you for sharing your insights today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Doug. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. And this is an organization that really touches my heart. And, I'm in New York City, and I always imagine New York City being such a tough place to be blind. But in some ways, it's one of the greatest places to be blind because you really can navigate your entire adult life without driving a car. Can you tell us a little bit about, your story and why you're even at this place, and what could we learn about your journey?
Absolutely. It's kind of a great segue because I have my own New York City connection
Oh, really?
to blindness and guiding eyes. Yep, absolutely. So,
Do you think New York City is both a challenge, but also maybe like it's good and bad? Bad because it's such chaos and craziness, but good because you literally could navigate a life without a car.
yes, yeah, it's actually surprisingly can be a great place to live if you're blind. I live in the suburbs now, and I often kind of miss the connectivity of New York City. But yeah, it definitely has its challenges as well. There's a lot of audio stimuli and a lot of interesting things that happen on the streets every day. So, but it is one of those incredibly walkable places that we don't have in a lot of parts of the country. So there are actually a lot of people who are blind who live in the city. But to my story, I'll make it quick because I don't want to monopolize this entire
No,
thing.
this is about you. It's I'm gonna just keep focused on you. So please tell us.
Great. So back to the very beginning, I grew up in the Virginias. So that's Virginia and West Virginia. And I grew up where I thought I had normal vision until I went to, when I was a teenager, to get contacts. In fact, I was 15, getting excited for the possibility of driving. I go in to get some contacts and I come out basically with a diagnosis of, oh, you have no peripheral vision and you're probably going to go blind one day. So that was a bit of a shock. And I went into a stage of denial there for a while. I had really good central vision at the time. And while it did make sense then why when my brothers would throw something at me, I wouldn't see it. It'd hit me in the head instead of my catching it. But fast forward, I continued on in my happy little journey. I did not end up getting my license because I didn't want to be responsible for injuring somebody, but I just lived in denial for a while. Went to school for graphic design of all things because I thought, well, at least I've got good central vision. But by the time I finished college, that had progressed. I had what's called retinitis pigmentosa, and so over a period of time, depending on the gene that you have that causes it, you lose your sight, and it can be a faster loss or a slower loss, and mine ended up being a bit faster. And so then I started my own coffee shop and ran that for a few years, and that was great until I could no longer really do that and hide my condition. And so
How was your vision at the coffee shop? Were you using any any type of assistance, or are you still
no,
hanging in there? You were hanging
I
in
was
there.
still in denial.
Okay.
So I still had horrible peripheral vision, and my central vision was beginning to get a little bit fuzzier, but I would just kind of laugh it off as being clumsy or something like that. I didn't really want to explain to anybody what my challenges were and how things were continuing to change. So, I would walk to work, to my coffee shop, and it wasn't always maybe the safest thing because I wasn't using a cane for mobility, and I was just really not accepting of it. So I ran the shop for 3 years, and towards the end of it, became one of those things where, like, I would bring people their food, and I would try to figure out where they were, and let me not spill their drink on them when I bring them their sandwich. And we actually had the opportunity, my husband, to go to graduate school, and it just so happened that it was graduate school in New York City. So we made the journey to New York. And once I arrived in New York City, I personally fell in love with it. I actually started training to live a life of somebody who was blind. I received orientation and mobility services with a white cane. I learned how to use a computer again, and ultimately got a job at a nonprofit in the city out in Queens. And
Mhm.
I was living all the way on the other side of Brooklyn, so that was a very long commute. But
And did you go by subway? Did you go
I
by?
did. It was three
Wow.
subway trains,
I mean,
three
that's
subway trains a
for
day.
people listening, because I grew up and still use subways every day. It's, you know, I've been in New York for over 50 years, and I still make mistakes on the subways. Like, I go up the wrong staircase, I get off at the wrong stop. I mean, the ones that I do every day is fine, but sometimes I'm visiting someone and I'll get on a subway line I haven't been on in 3 years. And I'm like, whoa, I just missed that stop. So, and that's, with I wasn't born in Virginia or West Virginia. That's with all my experience. I mean, a lot of times I'm not really paying attention, but it's a challenge. So 3 subways is crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. I
Yeah.
went from, for those familiar with New York City, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn to Long Island City, Queens, and
Wow.
it was quite the journey every day. And so I was working at this job, and there was another individual there who actually was blind and had a guide dog, and they would tell me, maybe you want to try this out. I think you'd be really good with a guide dog. And I, having moved to the city not that long before, and I had grown up with dogs, I love dogs, but I also always grew up with a yard and, a lot of area for the dogs to roam. I thought, I don't even know how that would work. And I live in a small apartment. What crosses everybody's mind is, how do you take the dog to the bathroom? And just all these different scenarios. But what ended up happening was,
So
it
you
was
were you were
winter.
still you were still in Brooklyn at that point.
Yes,
Okay.
still in Brooklyn, commuting to Long Island City every day. And one day, it was actually when New York City would get the giant snowstorms, not so much in the past couple of years, but this was a few years ago now. And they just had a big snowstorm, and the street cleaners had piled up the snow on the corners of the pedestrian crossings, as they usually do. And I was walking to work, and I clambered over the snow pile and basically got myself a bit disoriented. And when I crossed the street, I was completely lost. I had no idea where I was. And all I could hear was the wind off the East River. And I thought, well, I guess I'm going to die right here, being a little bit melodramatic. It was about 4 degrees and windy. And it wasn't a highly trafficked pedestrian area. So I just had no idea where I was. And thankfully, somebody came out and asked me what I needed, and I told them where I was looking for, and it turned out it was across the street from where I worked. And I could have been anywhere. I just had clambered over the snow pile, the wrong direction and had crossed the wrong way and was just sitting there. And that to me was the reason why I said, okay, no more worrying, no more questions. I'm going to apply for a guide dog. And my friend who was telling me that I should get a guide dog, he actually had his dog from Guiding Eyes for the Blind. And so I'd never even looked anywhere else. I went home that evening and I sat down and I completed the application for a guide dog. And several months later, I received my first one. And
Wow.
it was a totally life-changing experience for me. It was 180. It was, not only did I feel like myself again, that person who had grown up and was able to just walk at my quick gait and not have to worry so much about jabbing myself in the stomach all the time with my cane, and just I really just felt so much more free. But it just was a huge boost in confidence and just really changed my world, so much so that I wanted to give back any way I could. And over the course of several more years, I would volunteer in any capacity I could with Guiding Eyes. And then one day, several years ago, the opportunity came up to join the team, and I jumped at it.
Wow. I mean, it was very moving to hear your story, how scared it must have been for you to feel that not being able to find your way. And then the breakthrough of getting your dog is just fantastic, So
Yeah.
I'm very, very touched.
It was really one of those incredible things. Not only do you get this amazing partner who helps you and you get through the days together, but for me, in my own personal situation, and of course everybody's situation is different, it helped me accept that I was blind and that I am blind, and that that's okay, and I'm still a whole person. And I really was able to stop being so much in denial and really embrace this new individual that I am.
Wow. Oh my God, I'm still recovering from that. You might not be able to see, but I got choked up listening to that. It touches me. I mean, I'm really interested in, the people that work with animals and either for their welfare or conservationists or people that want to make a difference in the lives of animals. And I'm also extremely interested in how animals make a difference in our lives. And you actually get both on a daily basis. You help others connect to maybe their life-changing donor dog that they eventually get, and educate people about it, as well as you receive. And I think they're both so powerful. It is life-changing. And it was great that within just a few months, you were able to realize your dream of making that work for you, right?
Yes, it was. And the funny thing was, the next year we had another snowstorm. I had no trouble. It was amazing.
What year? How many years have you had your dog? What year is this?
So Regal is my second guide dog.
Oh.
And so I've been working with guide dogs now for about 10 years. So that whole experience happened in 2014.
And what was your first guide dog's name?
Her name is Jingles, and she's happily retired now with my parents, actually.
Oh, wow. And then you got Regal how long ago?
I got Regal a little over 6 years ago.
I want to share a product that I'm really excited about. And in this case, it's my product. I made this video course recently called How to Massage Your Dog. The website is called howtomassageyourdog.com, and it's still on sale if you check in with it. But it gives you a way to work on your dog from head to toe, whether it's a few minutes a day or outright full body sessions. It's good for that puppy. It's also good for your senior dog. It's a way that you can manage pain and help that dog not suffer as it goes through the different stages of life. I show everything in this video course, from hand techniques through full body massage, everything from a teacup dog to a Great Dane. It's all in one video course. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And there's even a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not completely satisfied. howtomassageyourdog.com. Tell us a little bit about Regal.
Oh, Regal is amazing. She is my small but mighty princess, and we have been on so many adventures together. She's really, I like to joke, she's kind of a dog version of me because she's got a little bit of attitude, but she's also very sweet, and she loves to relax, but when she needs to work, she works hard, and she likes to eat, and so do I. And we really, really are such a wonderful team. She's kind of my soul dog, and she is so smart. She outsmarts me all the time. We'll be walking, and I think with all humans, you might think, oh, I'm correct here, and then I do something wrong, and she's giving me the look like, yep, I was trying to tell you that we need to go here. But she's just amazing. We've gone coast to coast, travel all the time, anything from going down into New York City for the day to California, all over the place. And she makes my life so much easier. It's not only do I feel more confident and safe with her, but it's also a great companion. It's really hard to have a bad day when you have a happy dog next to you. Like I can't wake up upset. I can't, even if I have a cruddy day, then I just look at Regal and give her some love, and she gives me it back, and everything changes. So she's just incredible, honestly.
In your case, everybody has their great connection with their dog, but it is a real lifeline for you. Has there been, what's the term that's called when the dog disobeys because they're trying to protect you? Isn't there a term for that?
Mm-hmm. Intelligent disobedience, yes.
Intelligent disobedience. Wow. Does it still, like, even though you've been working with guide dogs all these years, does it still, like, shock you, like when an incident happens where they intelligently disobey you, where you go, wow, like you just get like a brand new wow, even though you're experienced at it, you still say, wow, there it goes again.
Oh yes, all the time, truly. Every day that I work with Regal, she amazes me, intelligent disobedience or not. But I can't tell you how many times, especially when I lived in Brooklyn, when I was working with her. I've since moved out to the suburbs, but when I lived in Brooklyn and on my way to work, um, crossing the streets, the light would change, and there would be so many cars that would be making that turn onto the road I'm just trying to cross. And I can't even count the amount of times that I would start to cross and we'd have the right of way, and then she would stop because there was a car turning. And there's many times that, I would not have known that if I were crossing just, myself or with my cane, that I would have, I could have been injured, I could have been hit, or, that driver would have had to be paying attention. And so much more lately, drivers don't pay attention. I found there's a lot more distracted driving. And so knowing that I have Regal looking out for me is huge.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's not so much the intelligent disobedience, which is huge. And I think every one of those is emotional,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I have a hard time picking out one. But I think one that really just stands out to me are just about how amazing the dog is, and just how much easier she makes my life is, I mentioned I live in the suburbs now. So now I do go down to New York City from time to time. And that involves me taking the Metro North train and commuting down. And it spills me out into Grand Central Terminal, which is massive.
Massive.
And so one of the first times that I did that since moving here, and Regal is so amazing that we spill out onto the platform, and she just guided me flawlessly all the way off the platform, through the terminal, and to the exact door I wanted. To me, that was just like such a big thing, not to have to try to wrangle somebody and ask for assistance and try to figure all that out, and to have so much less stress, to know that she is looking out for me. I mean, it's intense. There's usually music playing, there's so many people, there's food everywhere, and I don't even have to think about it so much. And she finds that door into the main exit. And for me, that's just huge, because that just shows how smart and how amazing she is. And then another example would be traveling solo, different than being in my local area where I kind of understand the layout of, like New York City or where I live or something like that and can kind of figure it out. But going across the country, for example, we were in LA, and this dog, I go to a hotel, and the first time I show her, this is our room, she's got it down, and she can, find her particular room in the row of those doors, find our elevator up to our particular room. And, we just went and took this walk, just kind of exploring. And I turned around and I said, okay, Regal, let's go back home. And she amazingly just never been there before. Neither of us had ever been there, and just found the exact route back.
Wow.
No stress whatsoever. And to me, that's still, every time she does something like that is so emotional, because not only do I feel like just a normal person walking with their dog, but knowing that I don't have to stress out so much, that we can figure it out together. And those are just a couple of instances that really stick out to me about our connection and how much she helps me in the day-to-day.
That's so awesome. Like, let's say you go to LA and you go to a hotel room. Does she say, all right, give me a second, let me figure out this room? Does she look at the gaps between the beds, or figure out where the bathroom is? Or does she have to scout it out, or does she just take it all in with a glance around the room?
So it's a funny question. Interestingly enough, when we're in our room or when we're at home, she's really, the harness comes off, she becomes Regal the dog, and she relaxes. And I kind of scout out the room myself using a few different kind of technology things, where it's really key. The room is small, and it's usually pretty easy to just kind of figure out your way. It'd be a little difficult for her to guide in the cramped hotel room anyway. But where it's really amazing is, once I'm shown my room, I will do something called targeting with her, and use a clicker, and basically I will name this particular room with, usually I call it just the room, and teach her that. And basically you back chain a bit and give the dog a treat every time she touches your hand right near that spot and to that name. And from then on, she knows that particular room in a whole row of rooms, so that I can go out, I can leave the lobby and all of those things. And then when I turn around to come back in the evening, get off my, she'll find she'll find the elevator, no problem. She loves elevators. That's her favorite thing. I have no idea why. She just loves elevators.
Now you got me really wondering, so let's say you're on the 20th floor of this hotel.
Yes.
And you're in 2019, the 19th room on the 20th floor.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time, do they need to have someone from the hotel point out the door to you, or do you walk? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I will ask for assistance to the room the first time. I don't want to creep any other guests out, feeling all their doors. So I'll ask for assistance to the room the first time. And then basically what I'll do is I will teach her that room specifically. And for my own personal peace of mind, I'll usually put a little rubber band around the handle of the door. You can't really see it. Yeah. And so when I leave, let's say I go to take her to the restroom, or I'm going to go for dinner or a meeting or something. And then when I come back, she'll get me to that elevator. We'll go up to the 20th floor, but get off that elevator at the 20th floor. And then I'll basically tell her to find our room. And she zeroes in on it really quickly. She'll walk down the hall, find the right door, and I'll just double check. I'll make sure that rubber band is there, and it always is. And she gets her reward for that. And it just makes it so much more seamless than me basically walking slowly down the hallway, counting the doors and trying to figure out, okay, did I do this the right way?
That's amazing. I mean, that's so cool. I could use her sometimes. Because I know I'm at hotels, or I go to conferences or stuff for my profession, continuing ed stuff, and I travel, and then I forget, oh my God, what's my room? And I'm looking in my pocket for the number, so, or I get out and I immediately walk the wrong direction down the hallway because I forget which direction it is, because I wasn't paying attention. And
Right.
you have someone to help you with that. That's amazing. I wanted to jump ahead a little bit. We talked on the phone before we did this, or I talked to people, from your group and all. Also, I was really interested in hearing you talk about the puppy. Is it called the puppy training program, or what's the name of it?
It's our puppy raising program.
Puppy raising program. And the reason I wanted people to hear about this is because I think I'm speaking for almost everybody, but we're all not at the level of training a dog, or maybe a few are that are listening. That's amazing. But a lot of people could get involved in the puppy raising program. And that's something that would be giving to your group. And you almost have a shortage of volunteers for that. Is that true? Or not a shortage, but there's a call for needing. We need this, right?
Yes,
Is that true?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
So tell us
100%.
tell us
Yes.
what that means. Tell us, like, you don't need to be specifically trained in as a professional trainer, correct?
No, not at
All
all.
right. So start from the beginning on that, because I think maybe some of the people that, work with me through YouTube or Instagram, some of the people that follow some of my content might be excellent puppy raising specialists. Let's call them that for a minute. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So to create one guide dog is a huge community of people, and one of these communities that we rely heavily on are our volunteers. And one of our volunteer groups that they're just incredible people are our puppy raisers. And these individuals will take an 8-week old puppy into their home, and they will train them to be a good dog. They'll give them those foundational skills to be prepared to come to Guiding Eyes and receive their formal harness training. So we kind of look at it a little bit like grade school for the dog. Whereas when they come back to Guiding Eyes to learn the formal guide dog commands, it's more like college. And so at any given time, our goal is to have 450 puppies on puppy program with volunteers. And the reason being is it's being a guide dog is it's an incredibly specific skill set, and it's a long process. It can take 2+ years for a dog to graduate as a guide dog. So those 450 dogs, they're anywhere from 2 months old all the way up to a year and a half old in some stage of learning and development. And so to volunteer, you don't have to have dog training experience. We are with you every step of the way. We have 39 puppy raising regions, and they span from Maine all the way down to North Carolina. They're mostly on the East Coast. They go as far west as Ohio. We've got a few puppy raisers who just, they've been with us for so long, they continue to raise in Colorado. Um, and essentially, there is orientation training that you would attend before getting your puppy. But when you do raise that puppy, we have weekly classes for the youngest puppies, and then biweekly classes as the dogs get older. We have there's a contact that you have who's your regional puppy instructor who answers all your questions and make sure that things are on track. And your goal as a puppy raiser is to teach the dog basic obedience, sit down, stay calm, all of those types of things. Socialization, so that is a little bit of a misleading term. When we think human socialization, we think going to a party, but for dogs it can be anything from standing back and observing traffic, or going to Home Depot, or taking a walk in a different kind of environment, feeling some different things underfoot. It's really providing a wide variety of experiences for that dog to observe and to become comfortable with, and then also to give that dog a ton of love at home, so that when they do come back to Guiding Eyes to learn how to be an official guide dog, they have this strong foundation of love and training, but you definitely do not need to be an expert or anything like that, because we do have those classes, and there's a great community that builds in those. Our puppy raisers become really good friends with each other. A lot of puppy raisers will continue to raise. We've got some who've raised more than 20 puppies, but it's definitely one of those
Wow.
things. It is a big volunteer commitment, and but we could not do it without our puppy raisers, and we're so grateful to them for
Is
assisting in
is
this
there ever
really important
is
work.
there ever a shortage?
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things that happened during the pandemic, for example, is, everybody was kind of cooped up, and we had a really long, actually like a long wait list of people who wanted to raise a puppy because everybody was cooped up, right? The problem was that once the pandemic began easing up, and totally understandable, they want to travel, they want to do all sorts of things, and raising a puppy wasn't necessarily, and some people wanted a break, and I can understand that, but we still need to raise these puppies, and we still need to get them that strong foundation. And there's a lot of ways that you can work it where, we do have puppy sitters who will, take your puppy that you're raising into their home while you go on vacation. And we have some people who work out a co-raising situation where two families will raise the same dog. And so there's a lot of flexibility that we will work with you, but there's definitely, we're looking to really grow by 30 plus puppy raisers at this point, and really more we would like.
I read in some of the information from your site, and also what you guys forwarded to me, was it can cost up to $50,000 annually to train and care for a guide dog throughout its working lifetime with a person who is blind. Wow, that's a lot. you
Yes.
know so that's the big hurdle as well, right? Like you want to put dogs and teams together, teams meaning the person that has visual impairment with the dog, but it also costs a lot to make this actually a reality. Um, and if people want to donate, let's say they can't volunteer, or that they don't feel they'd be a good fit for that, how could someone just go to your site and get involved? Even, and how small can they get involved? Can they do $5, or is that ridiculous? Can someone
That
just
is
do
not
can
ridiculous.
someone do $5?
Yes, you could do $5 if you
Yeah.
wanted to. Any amount is super helpful. Everything that we do is completely free to the person who's blind. And you're right, it's hugely resource intensive on time and financially, but it's so important to do it right, because we don't want to send out dogs who are going to, essentially not be safe. And so when you think you have your life in this dog's paws, and the return on investment is huge because of just that impact that the dog can have on the individual and what they now feel confident enough to accomplish, and the ripple effect is just almost unfathomable. It is largely resource intensive. We don't take government grants. We're all donation funded.
Mhm.
And, so even if you can't uh, puppy raise or volunteer in another capacity, you can still be a part of our community by supporting in any way, whether it's $5, whether it's $500,000, or whatever it may be. We are all coming together to make this incredible team possible.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we not take it for granted, but you just kind of miss, like, you see someone walking down New York City street with a guide dog, and you forget how life and death it actually is. Like it looks cool, or you like wish you could go pet that dog, even though you're not supposed to just walk up and pet a guide dog. So I don't do that, but I'm compelled to want to touch that dog, and I don't, because I know the etiquette. But my mother's got remarried 35, 40 years ago. So my stepdad's name is George, and George, all my family's from New York City. They were born in New York. So even my stepdad George is from the Bronx, and his dad died by being hit by a bus in New York City. So my stepdad, George's dad,
Wow.
and George is about 80. So this happened a long time ago, and George's dad, my stepdad's dad, could see. so it wasn't a visual problem. But like stuff like that actually happens,
Mhm.
and imagine if you couldn't see. And so it's life and death. This is a big deal. And so the work that you guys do is just amazing. How many? So we talked about 450 dogs could be in the puppy training program, potentially a puppy raising program. How many dogs do you think you graduate a year into teams?
Absolutely. Our goal is 150 plus guide
Mhm.
dog teams per year. So it's definitely a big responsibility for the dog. And we recognize that while we want all of our dogs who come through the program to become guide dogs, that every dog has its own personality. And so we do allow the dog to choose their career. We're never going to force a dog to become a guide dog. So not all of the dogs that will go on puppy program will eventually become guide dogs. And that's one of the things that we know and recognize, that no matter how careful you are about breeding for health and temperament, that dogs are like people. They have their own minds, and we want them to thrive in the life that they want also.
How many people do you think in the United States are interested in a guide dog?
It's a little bit of a tough question to answer. There's a wide range of definitions as to what would be considered blind or experiencing vision loss. There's more than 2 million for sure people who are in that category in the United States alone, and there's not nearly that many guide dogs. For some people, not everybody has the right lifestyle for a guide dog, and that's okay. But it's a very small percentage of people who are blind who are paired with a guide dog. And for example, at Guiding Eyes alone, at any given time, we'll have 200 plus people waiting on their guide dog to be ready for them. The
Wow.
demand is 100% there. It is, way more demand than any guide dog school in the country can supply. So it's not anything that's going away anytime soon.
Wow. Um, is there any other parts of your job that you work with? So like you're in donor relations. Is there any other steps that you want to mention, that you or categories that you work in that you want to share with people listening?
Yeah, I mean, if it's okay, I'd love to share just a little bit about the journey of a guide dog.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we at Guiding Eyes for the Blind do breed all of our own dogs. So the journey really starts before birth. We breed about 92% Labrador Retrievers, about 8% German Shepherds. We are very careful on how we breed our dogs. So from the very beginning, we have a reproduction and genetics department who looks at the genetics of every single dog. Every single dog gets their DNA collected. We track those dogs from birth to see their health, if they have specific, like a health challenge that maybe crops up in the litter, or maybe there's a fear of thunderstorms that we see. We try to pinpoint those genetic traits for the next future dogs. So we breed our own dogs. They are born up in Paterson, New York. They, from the very, very beginning, are incredibly well cared for and exposed to human bonding. They receive puppy massage from a week old, from volunteers. And, we really want to get that dog comfortable with the human touch, and also to grow and develop very well. Those dogs, as they grow, they will be exposed to more. We always have different sounds playing. We want that dog to be comfortable with a wide variety of sounds from the very beginning. So there's a loop playing at our Canine Development Center with classical music to heavy metal music. I'm told the dogs really like reggae, and they will be watching The Little Mermaid, and then they'll watch a different movie. There's just always sounds. There's the sound of jackhammers and sirens and babies crying, and it's really just to get that dog comfortable so many different kinds of sounds. When they're about 6 weeks old and have received some of their first vaccinations, the dogs will go out 2 and 3 at a time to local volunteer homes for socialization. That's 3 to 5 days where they're in the home of a volunteer who will expose them to things in their household to just get the dog comfortable with that. And that can be anything from turning on the dishwasher to running the vacuum to just a wide variety of just sights and sounds. When the puppies are 8 weeks old, they'll undergo a puppy evaluation, a formal evaluation where we have experts who kind of will look at the dog as they undergo a series of, in a controlled environment, just a series of tasks, and are exposed to some different novel objects and sounds and feelings, like a fan blowing on them and turning on a vacuum, just sound of like change in a can, things like that. We want to see what the dog's level of comfort is and that level of resiliency and connection to the handler. Even at 8 weeks old, our experts are able to tell if that dog might not have the personality to become a guide dog. Most of those dogs will go on to our puppy program with one of our amazing volunteer puppy raisers. And those that don't go on program with us, they might go to another service dog program, or if it's seen that they really wouldn't want to do any kind of work, they would be adopted out as pets.
Wow.
With the puppy raiser, it's about 12 to 15 months. And that's where I mentioned earlier, where that puppy raiser will expose them to a wide variety of socialization, teach them basic obedience and house manners, and give them plenty of love. When they come back to Guiding Eyes in Yorktown Heights, New York, from their puppy raising homes, which said me in any of those 39 regions, they will take what's called an in-for training test, which is kind of like that puppy evaluation, but it's much larger, and it's a formal evaluation again of how resilient is that dog to these reactions. There's a mock vet exam, there's an unusual looking person, there's another dog, there's like a Kong with peanut butter. Will the dog give up the Kong if we ask them to give it up? There's scents and underfootings, and we just really want to see what that dog's reaction is, how connected they stay with the handler, and are they comfortable moving on to the next phase, which most of them will be comfortable moving on. Some of those dogs will be evaluated for possible breeding to produce the next generation of dogs, and the rest will go into formal harness training. That formal harness training is when they will get paired with an expert instructor, a guide dog trainer at Guiding Eyes, who will teach that dog for a minimum of 5 months how to become a guide dog. And it starts off very simply. The dog touches its nose to what we call target stick. It gets a treat. That translates into identifying something like a curb, which translates into moving out into that harness and putting pressure on that harness as to pull the blind person, and ultimately it builds and builds and builds upon itself to where at the end of the day the dog is riding escalators, elevators, they can go on trains, they go into New York City, and safely lead that instructor, who will do under blindfold also to ensure that that dog is ready to be paired with somebody who is blind. And we have a couple of other programs on top of that where the dog will receive additional training. So some dogs may go into our specialized training program where they'll receive more than that 5 months. It might be a year plus of training, so that they can guide somebody who's blind and also has additional challenges, like maybe they have additional balance challenges, they might have some cognitive impairment, they may be blind and deaf. And so those dogs will get that additional training too. They're not specifically a service dog for that additional challenge, but they're aware they can work around that. They can work with the person who has that challenge. So for example, if somebody who's deafblind has the dog, we might teach that dog to only respond to hand commands and nonverbal praise, right? Whereas somebody who doesn't have that additional challenge, we don't have to teach the dog those additional skills. And we also have a running guide dog program. So for people who are more athletic and they want to run with their guide dogs and not have to find a sighted human guide or just use their treadmill, we do have a small percentage of our dogs who actually really enjoy running and guiding at the same time. So we're really the only guide dog school that does this. we kind of pioneered the running guide program, and that's hugely popular.
That's so cool.
When the dog is ready to be paired with someone who is blind, we similarly have a pool of applicants who have undergone an application and interview process and are now waiting to be matched with that dog. It's a little bit like a matchmaker process where we look at that individual's lifestyle, we look at how fast they walk, we look at how hard they like that feeling of a dog pulling into the harness. We look at, do you have to settle a lot because you're in a lot of long meetings? Are you constantly on the go? Do you have young kids? Are you in a retirement community? There's just a wide variety of people, and there's a wide variety of dogs. Some dogs love the city, some dogs love a rural area. And we will essentially find a dog that matches that individual person. So if a person walks 3 miles an hour and lives in New York City, we're going to find a dog that is comfortable with the challenge of New York City and walks about 3.2 miles an hour, so that there is a congruity of pace and lifestyle.
Wow.
And once we make that,
I love this specificity and being able to tailor it, that detail. That's amazing.
yes, it's really, one of those things that I think even myself, I didn't think about that when I applied for a guide dog. But when I had a home interview, someone from Guiding Eyes came out and talked to me in my home. And one of the things we do is that specific pace walk, where we call it a Juno walk. The Guiding Eyes representative will actually hold an empty harness and kind of pull it and ask that person to just walk as fast as you're comfortable with. Because for some people, especially those who maybe, have lost their vision later in life, you may not walk as fast with a cane as you did when you could see. And so that instructor wants you to be comfortable and say, like, no, if you just walking normally and you don't have to worry, like, how fast are you going to walk? And so we'll actually clock that, and we try to find a dog that matches that pace, because that's a really important thing, to have that match. And similar with the lifestyles, some dogs really excel in a more country environment, and some dogs really love the challenge of the cities. And so we want to make that match also. When the dog and the person are ready to be matched, they will either complete training here in Yorktown Heights on campus. We will fly out people from all 50 states in Canada. They will stay on campus for about 2 weeks and train with their dog. It's a highly customized training where we have a ratio of about 2 people receiving their dogs to 1 instructor. They will go to places that match similar environments to where they will be at home. So if you live in a more urban environment, you'll do more urban training with your guide dog. If you live in a more rural environment, you will do more, environments where there might not be sidewalks. And if you are not able to come out to campus, we actually have a home training program where we'll send an instructor to your home with that guide dog, and they'll complete the training in your home area. Wow. And after that training is completed, it's anywhere from 10 to 15 days. Then you're officially graduated, but you are part of the Guiding Eyes community, and there's unlimited follow-up. You can call anytime. We will talk to you, walk you through any challenges you might have as you're learning and working together. They'll send out instructors to assist, in additional training, and also just follow-ups as the years go by. And we do make available to any graduate, they can access it's a stipend to assist with their preventative vet care. So, we really want to be just this community of support. You're still there all the way through the whole process, even when your dog is getting ready to retire. We're right there with you.
Is there a mandatory retirement age, or is it really case by case on how the dog is going into its senior years?
It is a bit more on the case by case. The average working time for a guide dog is about 8 years. So if the dog's 2 years when it is placed, the average retirement is around 10. But it does depend on a few things. It depends on if there's anything medically that, as a dog gets older, they can develop some medical challenges. So that could affect the dog's retirement age. Additionally, the dog may lose interest in working as it gets older, especially if maybe there's a more stressful environment, sometimes they might retire a little bit younger than that. But we do, especially, as the dog gets older, we will check in and make sure everything's working okay. But I see on average, a lot of the dogs will retire sometime somewhere between 9, 10 years old.
Mm,
Then they have a happy retirement.
that's great. I really love just hearing about all this. Is there any other like team? When I say team, meaning the guide dog and the person that receives the dog, that really touched your heart of how much it was a life-changing experience for that person, or just one over the years that just still stands out for you as, you know, that placement that was a wow for you to witness or hear about.
One of the ones that stands out to me from the beginning is that we have a graduate. Her name is Marin, and her guide dog's name is Keegan. And she actually lost her vision in a car accident right after graduating from college. And she was getting ready to find an apartment, and basically a piece of something hit through the windshield, and she lost her vision. And so she went from being ready to just embark on this new life to kind of really having to learn everything again. And so after getting the training that she needed just to be able to do the orientation and mobility, which is important because you are a partner with the dog. Dog's not a GPS, so you do need to be able to know like where you're going. She came to Guiding Eyes. She received her dog. Her dog's a running guide dog, and they're just doing incredible. She travels all over the place. She is just so happy, and she shares a lot about how Guiding Eyes has changed her own life. And she shared with a lot of our supporters at one of our golf fundraisers a couple of years ago. And the story is just so touching because it just shows not only her own strength, but also just how much that connection with that dog has really enhanced her own life, to say, okay, this is not the path that I thought I was going to take, but I'm still very happy.
Wow. I love that. That's so cool. What was it like for you the moment you were introduced to Jingles, your first dog? Was that like a crazy moment for you? Was it at the facility or did they
It
bring
was.
Jingles to your apartment?
I went to Guiding Eyes for the training. So I was staying there on campus, and how it works is we have something called Dog Day. It's like the most exciting day, maybe aside from graduation. And you're sitting with your classmates in this room, and the instructors come and they say, Rebekah, your dog is Jingles, and she's a yellow lab, and tell me, how to spell her name. And the same happened with Regal. And it's kind of that same feeling of anticipation. And who am I going to get? Who's going to be my guide dog? And so then you go to your respective rooms. Everybody has their own room it's like a hotel room almost. It's very nice. And you wait and you hear the knocks on the doors of your classmates, and you just can't wait until yours. And then the instructor will bring in your guide dog, and they'll introduce you, and you start off by giving that dog a few treats because it's definitely had a few transitions, and so you want to start that bonding from the very beginning. And then you just spend some time together, just really getting to know each other. And after that, you have your first official walk together, and then that is like, it's just like mind blowing almost. You're like, I can't believe I'm walking so fast. I can't believe this dog is guiding me. And, it's a little bit, when it's your very first dog, it's a little bit like you have to get your sea legs because you are walking a little bit differently than when you maybe were using your cane or walking with a sighted human partner. And but within a couple of days, you just can't even believe that you did it any other way. So it's pretty incredible.
That is incredible. If people are listening to this while they drive, you have to come back and watch the video version of this just to see Rebekah's face just totally changed when you started remembering about that. Like you just lit up. And again, I always get emotional.
I know.
But
I still do. Here I am, and I'm like, I've got my guide dog snoozing next to me, and I'm just thinking back to that, thinking back to the moment of receiving,
yeah.
her and receiving my last one, and that
Uh,
feeling truly it doesn't go away. And there's something so special of being part of that now, helping it make it possible for others, and seeing that joy on everybody who comes through the doors each new class, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I know what you're going through and how incredible that
yeah.
is.
It really is out of this world, right? It's just amazing. On the video version, we've been putting up your website name. It's, let's see, guidingeyes.org, guidingeyes.org, but we have it in the description box. We have it on the screen. If you're listening on your Apple or Spotify or any other streaming podcast, it'll be in the description box there. So we're making things easy. If people think that they would be a good fit for the puppy raising program, reach out to them and imagine having a puppy that you could really work with, but also know the gift that you're giving to others by paying it forward. And you get to play with the puppy. And then if you're good at it and have an affinity for it, you could do it again. But just to know about this group and just how much it really is a beautiful way that you pay it forward and impact lives. I mean, I almost don't have to ask you this question, but I love asking it on my podcast, which is, obviously you're in a professional capacity of making a difference in the lives of animals and people. And I've kind of already asked you how it's made a difference in your life, but I guess maybe let me get a little bit more specific. Having this experience for you, do you think it's shaped how you are different showing up in the world as a person, as a woman, as a part of your community? Like, has it molded you a little bit into who you are and who you become in the direction you are in this world?
Oh, 100%. I think that had you asked me in college, will you be in donor relations?
Mhm.
I don't know about that. For me, it's not just a job. Um, it's a way of being. Like, I feel like so grateful to be a part of to working with incredible people
Mm.
to who are so generous to make more dogs like Regal possible, more dogs like Keegan possible. It really has shaped, there's so many kind people in this world. And I think we can sometimes look at the news, look at, hear all these stories, see the really kind of the dark side of the human existence, and being involved at Guiding Eyes for the Blind, in a professional capacity, in a personal capacity, you see the good. You see the good of people, those amazing, selfless people who volunteer, who donate, the passionate staff who devote their lives to, helping others and being a part of that. I think it gives you just this way of looking at the world and knowing that, okay, no, I don't have to listen to the news narrative that everything is, crumbling, because there are so many good people in this world making a difference for others, and all we have to do is just look.
Uh, and that is special because a lot of people, some people might not like what they do for a living or feel they like it, but it's a grind and they're always left exhausted. And then years slip by and we feel like, what's my purpose? And sometimes your purpose could come out of your career, and sometimes it could be from your community or your own personal journey. Sometimes your purpose could be connecting to something that has a higher good. And so there's different ways people can be exposed to a higher good. And it's lovely to see how you guys have been making an impact. And I'm so grateful that you shared your story, your personal story, which means a lot. Otherwise, we would have just been talking about facts and figures, $50,000 and 450 dogs, and which is great. We need those numbers, but I'm glad that you brought your own humanity and vulnerability into this conversation, and makes a difference. Thank you. And let's stay in touch, okay?
Yes, thank you so much for having
Okay.
me on. I was really honored to be able to share about Guiding Eyes and about my own
Yeah.
story. Really appreciate it.
Now, if you get into New York City, you have, you want to come by the office, you get free care for you and your dog, if you're ever interested, and that would be an endless, ongoing. There's no time limit on that. There's no expiration date. Okay.
I'll have to stop by with Regal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye bye.